This is the Illimitable Experience Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Illimitable Experience Podcast. If you're watching this video, like this video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. Today is the day when we have the most awaited episode, I would say, that I was personally looking forward to, because this is the first time we have had a stand-up comedian in all the 9 months of recording that we have been doing. Hi Rohan, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I mean, first of all, I would like to thank our mutual friend Kaira, who made this possible. And I mean, you had already recorded an episode which did not come out, when you recorded. But then today is the time that we can put it out officially, because the situation is not the same as it was before. And hopefully we don't get banned, or you don't get any cases on you for talking on this podcast.
Hopefully.
So yeah, Rohan, I mean, for the viewers, can you tell me who you are? I mean, I know you're a stand-up comedian, but can you tell me who you are and what you do, and how did you come to become a stand-up comedian?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to this podcast, and thank you for having me. And like you mentioned, hopefully this episode we will release, unlike the other one. So for everybody else, hi, my name is Rohan Parekh. I'm a stand-up comic. I've been doing this for about 6 to 7 years. I started back in college when I was in engineering, because like when you're in engineering, you need to do something with your time, because padhta to koi hai nahi. So I was like, chalo, raat ko kuch na kuch kar lete. So I started doing like open mics and stuff. Got really interested. People started laughing. So I was like, hey, kuch kar sakte hai. And so we can get into my journey a little bit more detail from now on. But like my basic introduction is, I'm a stand-up comic. I'm a consultant as well. After engineering, I decided to be engineering nahi karna hai, so I got into consulting. So I'm a consultant by day, I'm a comedian by night, and that's about it.
Great. So Rohan, ये जो college वाला जो scene था, right? When you said that you started, how did मतलब क्यों ऐसा stand-up comedy choose किया, right? So that is the question that arises, because there are many things that goes around, like वो fest होता है, organizing committee, blah blah blah. But ये stand-up comedy क्यों choose किया और कैसे किया?
Right. So I was very interested in stand-up in college festivals right from the beginning. Like पहले मैं मिट्टी बाई में था, तो वहाँ पे I volunteered for क्षितिज. फिर मैं DJ संघवी में गया, तो I was helping them with their festival Trinity. First year I participated, second year I organized, third year I became cultural secretary. तो interest हमेशा से था. And then I think in my second or third year I realized that not everybody shares the same interest in college festivals, because लोगों के पास इतना information नहीं है. Like there are some colleges which participate in most of the fests, क्योंकि उनके पहले से networks है. They know सामने वाले contingent कौन है, यहाँ पे कौन है, so they keep on participating in each other. But for the general public, like for engineering colleges, there are very few things. Like people don't know anything outside of Vile Park. So I started a blog actually. That was my first foray into writing comedy stuff.
Okay.
So I had a blog called The Campus Box, and what I would just do is I would go to all of these festivals, I would write about them, and I would tell people why you should attend these festivals. And so in those articles, I would try to be funny. So I would add jokes everywhere, because I was like, if it's funny, maybe people will read it. Then then this one time in my third year, I was attending BITS Goa festival as a sponsor, official like unka sponsor. Campus Box, and I'd also taken my contingent from DJ Sangvi over there, and I saw that there's a stand-up competition happening. So I was like, I already have some jokes that I've written in my blogs, so why not just put them like together and perform? Let's see what happens. So मैंने वो किया, and actually reached the finals over there. I was like, chalo, there is something to this. Then in the same year, I also we organized the what do you say? First year के लिए क्या होता है, freshers party. We organized a freshers party, and we decided to have a theme about roasts, because तभी AIB का roast आया था, and everybody was like, oh my god, AIB roast, we have to do something like this. And so as the organizing committee, we decided the freshers party mein we'll do a roast, and all the departments that we have, they will roast each other. So like computer science will roast chemical engineering, biomedical engineering, etc. So we told all the first years कि तुम सब लोग एक representative भेजो, and we booked a whole we booked a whole big ground and everything. There was a huge stage for the proper event, and because I was the cultural secretary, I was like, I will be roast master because I can decide. So I was very neutral, very impartial, and I said Rohan is the best person for the job. So right now I don't know anything about joke writing yet. I've just decided कि मुझे करना है क्योंकि मुझे interest है. But I don't know how to do this. And none of the other kids also who are getting on stage know, because like nobody knows how to do comedy like the first time. It takes time to build up that skill set. So what they ended up doing and what I realized was like they saw the AIB roast. वो लोग ने वहाँ से कुछ jokes निकाले. फिर KJ Somaya had also done a roast a few weeks before us, and then they had put up the video online. So they went there. वो लोग ने वहाँ से jokes उठाए. And then I was little smart. I did more research and I went to Comedy Central roast, which have been happening for years.
Right.
And मैंने वहाँ से jokes उठाए. ठीक है, as the roast master. And so we did that roast, and I was doing all my jokes, and everybody was laughing. It was great. And so the person that we had called as a judge, he also used to do open mics back then. He told me that you should actually, start doing open mics. And so open mics are these events where anybody can come and perform. They give you 4 minutes of stage time. It's specifically for new people or for old comics who are trying out new material. Okay. So the judge told me that you should definitely try doing this open mic thing. You're quite funny. I didn't tell him they were not my jokes, but then that's what I thought. Other people's jokes are giving me that laughter, and I'm enjoying this so much. Why don't I just write my own? Because that experience will be better. So then I actually started writing. I started attending open mics and stuff. Back then, I think I started around 2015 or something. There was only one open mic in the city. That was regular. It was called the Hive. No, it was even before Canvas. It was called the Hive. Canvas was maybe once a week. Hive was little more frequent than that, and it was easier to get a spot at Hive. And that was in this like far out. That was in this place called in Khar. There's a Chuim village or something like एकदम अंदर जाके तुम्हें जाना पड़ता था, and that is where we would go to do these open mics. And there was barely enough stage time, so once a week you would sign up for Hive, और तुम्हें 4 minute मिलते थे. And so that's where I started performing. And then I started thinking that, maybe I can start doing this at college festivals, because there I'm getting an audience ready-made. Like Hive, maybe 2 people, 3 people would come back then, because comedy was not known. But college festivals में students तो वेल्ले बैठे होते हैं. तो तुम event डाल दो, लोग आ जाएंगे. और लोग नहीं भी आए तो organizing committee force करेगा अपने committee members को कि जाके बैठो. तो तुम्हें ready-made audience मिल रहा है. So I started doing different college festivals. I did Umang, NM का festival. I did Malhar, I did Xavier's का. I did IT Bombay ka Mood Indigo. And Mood Indigo ka stand-up competition, I won in my very first year.
Wow.
So जब वो मैं जीत गया, so I was like, अब मैं funny हूँ. ठीक है.
Right.
Certificate है मेरे पास IIT Bombay का.
Correct.
I wanted IIT Bombay certificate for engineering degree. I was not able to get in, but they told me I am funny. So now I can do this.
Wow. This obviously like it's a huge confidence booster if you win Mood Indigo, because वो India का largest fest, if I'm not wrong, in terms of budget. Correct. So that was definitely something that. So you first time only you participated and you won, or you had participated before and then you won?
No.
Second or
first,
third?
It was my first participation and I won.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
that also helped me get some connections into like the established comedy industry, because Mood Indigo was being judged by Adar Malik and Karan Talwar, if I'm not wrong, and they're both part of SNG, formerly SNG. अभी तो मतलब उनका divorce वगैरह हो गया एक दूसरे के साथ, but back when they were SNG, so they got me and they were like, hey man, you're really funny, and then I got their numbers, and then I stayed in touch with them. I performed with them for a few more shows. Then I did a little writing work with Karan Talwar and all of that. So that really confidence booster that I'm funny, plus got me connected to these people who were like already comics in the industry. So then I wrote one sketch with them. I did a few stand-up shows with them. Because of that, I met these other comics who were also performing with them. So the network धीरे-धीरे फिर बढ़ने लगा.
Wow. That's a great journey. I mean, so see, obviously the open mics is like the stepping stone to becoming a stand-up comedian. So जो होता था when you attended the many ओपन माइक्स तो वहां पे लाइक वो टाइम पे ही कॉन्फिडेंस आ गया था कि नहीं मैं फनी हूँ, या इट वाज लाइक अ ग्रेजुअल प्रोसेस के पहले बॉम्बिंग हुआ था एंड देन यू रियलाइज कि अच्छा आई हैव टू रिफाइन माय जोक्स एंड देन आई कैन मूव ऑन टू लाइक बीइंग कॉल्ड फनी.
Yeah, so first time nobody's funny. Like the
Hmm.
first time that you will get on stage and you will try to do jokes, you are not going to be funny because people, even people who are naturally funny, like there would be the funny guy in your group. Maybe you would be that funny guy. You can be funny for
Hmm.
30 seconds. You can be funny for 1 minute. Or if there's a conversation happening with your friends where everybody knows each other's backgrounds and what you're talking about, you might be able to be funny longer. But if you're standing in front of strangers who have no context of your life, they don't know what you're talking about, being funny for 4 minutes straight is not a joke. Like four
Right.
minutes is a really long time for being on stage, and if nobody's laughing and there's silence, so 4 minutes feels like an eternity. And so nobody has the confidence first time they get on stage. In fact, I have a funny story of my very first open mic at Hive. So this was also back the time where pretentious movie reviews had just gotten viral. Okay?
Okay. Hmm.
And people on the internet love to say that, oh, Kanan Gill is so funny, so hilarious, so beautiful, and Biswa is so ugly. But like
Okay.
there was this
हाँ
general like
हाँ,
whole thing that
ये
was
इतना
happening.
कंपैरिजन था वो टाइम
Huh.
पे, राइट.
And I think in one of the pretentious movie reviews they acknowledged this also on video. So, like everybody's fucking only praising this guy and they're not praising this. So that कुछ तो था, ठीक है. So my very first 4 minutes had a joke about uh, I don't remember the exact because it was like 7-8 years ago, but I remember that it was something about the fact that मुझे कोई भाव नहीं देता when I'm going out with my friends and all, because like back then all of them had girlfriends and I didn't. So like I always felt like Biswa Kalyanda doing a pretentious movie review. Like only the other people are getting the attention. So this was part of my first 4 minutes that I had prepared. I was going to Hive. I had already attended a few open mics over there, so I knew what the general format is. दो तीन लोग ऑडियंस में होते हैं, तुम्हें जाना होता है, करना होता है, and that's it.
Correct.
I get on stage, and in the very front row, first row, that I see closest to the stage, is sitting the Swagalyanta. And I'm like,
Oh
what
my
kind of pressure?
God.
So it's not like I have multiple jokes written down, right? मेरे पास वो 4 मिनट ही था. मेरे पास और कुछ भी जोक नहीं है. तो मैं जाके बोला कि Biswa, I know like you're funny and all, but I have a joke. And Biswa like, अबे यार तू करना अपना कर. Like he's like, you can do it. So I did that, and I was like, I felt like Biswa Kalyanda doing a pretentious movie review. And there was full silence. Okay, full silence in the room. And then this was like, oh my god, so funny, like in his very sarcastic voice. And then everybody started laughing. And then he acknowledged, तेरे को applause मेरे वजह से मिला, ठीक है? मेरे वजह से.
Oh my God, bro. Biswa is this like a real character because मैंने भी उसको open mics जो है वो कभी कभी try करता है. So me and my friends have attended it. And in the real life also he is like very abusing कि हाँ भाई तू जाना नहीं कर रहा है, photo नहीं ले रहा है. So not in like a bad way, but it comes off as really funny because अभी इसका वो क्या बोलते हैं ब्रांडिंग वैसा सेट हो चुका है कि अगर बिस्वा गाली दिया तो it doesn't mean to give गाली.
He does not mean to give value. And like if you hang out with him off stage, like not as a audience member or a fan, he's genuinely a very sweet person. Like
Right.
for I think 2 years or something, he was my neighbor also in
Achha.
over here. So like वो काफी sweet बंदा है. Like whenever I needed any help, so I would go to him. I would be like, ये करना है, what should I do? Or if I just need any life advice, he gives really good life advice. Like pretty sweet guy off stage, and on stage ठीक है उसका थोड़ा like he's fun and he's like fun, he's carefree, he's like हाँ जो है वो है, बस मजे करो लाइफ और क्या.
Right. तो है. तो रोहन, this is one thing that I would like to point out, right? ये जो रोस्ट का जो सीन था, that is something that really shook the entire country, and this is something
It
that
did.
I know about something के which people don't know. So obviously, first of all, जो रोस्ट था, obviously this was like the pioneer act that the AIB put up, right? कि उसके पहले किसी ने किया नहीं था, एंड जो किया था तो उसमें भी इतनी कंट्रोवर्सी आ गई कि टू पुट इट इन द एग्जैक्ट टर्म्स तो पूरा इंडिया हिल गया कि लोग अश्लील और गाली के गाली दे के बात कर रहे हैं, व्हिच इज नॉट समथिंग दैट people are not aware of or people don't do in real life, but that's the thing. So AIB, I'll tell you one thing, okay, that I guess a lot of stand-up comedians might not be knowing about this, is that ये जो एआईबी का रोस्ट हुआ, राइट, एंड देयर वर अ लॉट ऑफ cases filed on them. And as far as I recall, and my professor in the college told us that the person was defending AIB, okay, was none other than Mahesh Jethmalani, who is a senior advocate. And Mahesh Jethmalani, as the surname might suggest, is the son of Ram Jethmalani. So that was like really good, counsel put for by AIB. Now what happened is जो PIL फाइल किया था उनके अगेंस्ट कि ये पब्लिक स्पेस में नहीं डालना चाहिए, प्राइवेट में करना है तो कर सकते हैं. So our professor was one of the lawyers, or I would say the lawyer who had filed the PIL. Now, I'm not going to name her, but वो होगा पता होगा इंडस्ट्री में लोगों को. So what happened is she was narrating this incident to us in college, and बताया कि so what happened is when जब भी कोर्ट में the proceedings start होने वाले थे, तो there's this thing that says कि I on behalf of all AIB करके, तो Mahesh Jethmalani could not say the full form completely, like all India बोले and then रुक गए, because if you curse in the courtroom, it is considered to be like क्या बोलते हैं, disrespect to the court. तो किया नहीं. And obviously immediately जो काउंसिल जो मैम के तरफ से थे उन्होंने बोल दिया कि हाउ कैन यू एक्सपेक्ट टू डिफेंड समवन जिनका आप नाम भी पूरी तरीके से ले नहीं सकते, राइट? तो तभी जज आल्सो स्टार्टेड लुकिंग एट महेश जेठमलानी एज लाइक हु आर यू रियली डिफेंडिंग के इनके नाम में ऑल इंडिया बकचोद है, so in what basis you are defending? तो वो हुआ, and that is something like newspaper में भी cover हुआ था कि ये मैम ने किया था and all that stuff. So it was like quite thrilling to know कि हम उनके साथ पढ़ रहे हैं. At the same time में वही सोचा था, अरे लेकिन वो ये भी funny तो था ना, मैं 1 घंटा continuous हंसा था तो उसका क्या? So
exactly, yeah, this is just hypocrisy is what I think from a lot of people. It's not like AIB has invented any curse words, ठीक है? इंडिया में लोग पहले भी गाली देते थे, बाद में भी गाली देते थे. In fact, Karunesh Talwar used to have this very good joke where there was it was something along the lines of this only, where a parent wanted the comedian not to curse on stage. So they're like, मेरे बच्चे गाली के बारे में उनको पता चल जाएगा, they will learn all of this. And Karunesh was like, if you don't want your kids to learn abusive language, don't send them to school. तुम्हें क्या लगता है मैं ये कहाँ से सीखा हूँ? मेरे मम्मी पापा ने तो नहीं बताया सब मुझे. स्कूल में 8th standard में is where I'm learning all of this. So everybody is exposed to everything. AIB just decided to make it funny and put it on the internet. And that is when everybody is like, oh, how can you do this publicly? Like you said, private में करो, public में नहीं. But why? If you're doing it, everybody's doing it, सबको पता है, just put it on the internet. And everybody's like, अरे family friendly content होना चाहिए, you can't watch this with the family. Don't watch it with your family. क्यों देखना है? अलग अलग देखो ना, तुम्हारे घर में अलग अलग रूम्स है, तुम्हारे सब लोग के पास स्मार्टफोन है. Watch it independently, have a good laugh. Don't watch it with the family. That's completely okay. But and they got into a lot of trouble because they made fun of big people first time publicly. जो आज तक, like if you watch all of these IFA awards and all of that, they'll make little bit jokes about people. थोड़ा बहुत.
Yeah, like subtle.
These guys are like, they're just going for it. We're going to make it like a proper roast. Comedy Central has been doing roasts for years, and they make so much more fun than what these guys did. Like this was mild compared to a proper Comedy Central roast where they go for it. Like तुम्हें छोड़ते नहीं है, proper roast करते हैं. And वहाँ पे everybody is acceptable कि चलो ठीक है, we're doing this. This is all going for charity. It's for a good cause. We are having fun. We are laughing. सब कुछ. यहाँ पे it's like, अरे how can you make fun of me? इंडिया में ego बहुत है यार लोगों के. That's the only thing. Once you become a star in India, ना, people treat you like God. And then once people treat you like God, you're like, how can you make fun of me? I will take legal action against you. And that is what happened with them. इसलिए उसके बाद एक कोई भी और roast हुआ नहीं है.
हुआ नहीं. But to their credit, right? Obviously उन पे इतना controversy हुआ, ये वो हुआ. But I think that All India बकचोद was like weird of its time. मैं आज भी, because it I guess it was in 2013 or 14 जब भी they started uploading those honest series and जो theater वाला था वो सब. And I was crazy behind it. Crazy मतलब रेगुलर लाइक मैं बोलूँ ना, अगर मेरे 3 ग्रुप होते तो तीनों ग्रुप के साथ मुझे देखना ही होता वो इतना. एंड
Exactly.
इट्स
And it's not
एंड
like
उस
they created that format also. Like those
हाँ.
things, the West has been doing it for years. So uh, there's always this evolution of comedy that happens in any country. ये सब चीजें जो AIB ने यहाँ पे करी, they did sketch comedy, which is putting short videos on YouTube. They started using a little bit of profanity on stage in their stand-up. They did a roast. All of this has happened in the West also. When they also started doing it for the first time, there was a lot of resistance because people didn't understand what was happening. And then eventually it took time for the audience to realize, okay, it's fine. This is just comedy. They're making jokes. We don't have to take them seriously and move on.
Move on, right?
India has not yet reached that stage where we can just do a roast and be like, it was just for fun. And I think there was this other podcast. I can't remember the name of which, but I think Sahil Shah put it beautifully. He said that in the West now, in this film industry, they're all co-workers. So when you do a roast or something, or at award shows when you do a monologue and you're roasting each other, you are making fun of a coworker. He's your peer, no matter what the age difference, and that's fine. He said India में ना family होते हैं सब लोग. तो तुमने किसी बुजुर्ग का मजाक उड़ाया मतलब तुमने पापा का मजाक उड़ाया, and that's the problem over here.
Hmm.
So like here people don't treat each other as equals and peers and stuff like that. Maybe the younger generation might, but for everybody else, it's a very hierarchical society over here.
Correct, right. वो तो है. And I think AIB का जो retention रेट है in terms of video, see, I'll be honest, मैं आज भी उनके जो वो honest placement campus placement है ना, वो आज भी मैं देखता हूँ. इनफैक्ट मैं लास्ट वीक ही देखा वो. Beautifully put. And इनफैक्ट उसका शूटिंग भी केजेस सोमैया में हुआ था. So when Kaira was in the college, he told me कि अच्छा इसका तो शूटिंग मेरे कॉलेज में ही हुआ है, कि मेरे सामने हो रहा था, वो लोगों को भर रहे थे. And it is literally the same thing that actually happens during the placement of engineering colleges. तो मेरे को तो लगा यार ठीक है, अभी वो बोला होगा कि उसको मतलब बोला, बट बाद में रियलाइज किया अच्छा ये रियली होता है. आई वाज अंडर द अजम्पशन कि ये कॉमेडी बनाने के लिए थोड़ा एक्सैजरेट किया है, कि ऐसा ट्रक में 100 लोगों को 200 लोगों को भर के लेके जा रहे हैं मास रिक्रूटिंग के लिए. बट देयर वाज लाइक ये सच में होता है. मास रिक्रूटर आता है, 3-3 लाख का पैकेजेस देता है, मतलब सबको लेके जाता है. सो दैट वाज लाइक क्वाइट हिलेरियस मैन. So, Rohan, now obviously you just told me that you are in contact with a lot of well-established comedians and in the people in the industry. So now I want you to tell me कि जब भी कोई stand-up comedian पे केस होता है, right? Okay, so what is like a standard allegations that are being put in on the comedian? Because I'm a lawyer, so I know कि अभी there are some things prototype होती है, right? I'll give you an example. So there is a section in IPC 498A which talks about dowry related thing, right? And so women conveniently use it for filing false 498A cases so that they can settle that outside court, and they ask a very hefty amount like 50 lakhs कर दो तो हम केस विड्रॉ कर लेंगे. And the entire जो केस का जो प्रोसीजर होता है, it's very prototype. Like I'll give you an example कि जो ससुर है वो मुझे बुरी नजरों से देखता है, सासू माँ मेरे पे बहुत चिल्लाती है, हस्बैंड मुझे बाहर लेके नहीं जाता है. सो ये हर एक 498 केस में ऐसी तो स्टोरी बननी ही है. इट इज लाइक ये दिखे तो इट इज लाइक यू कैन ब्लाइंडली से इट इज अ फेक केस. सो व्हाट आर द एलिगेशंस दैट स्टैंड अप कॉमेडियंस रेगुलरली फेस व्हिच इज नॉट ट्रू, बट ये डालने के लिए उन लोग डालते ही है कि इनको बदनाम करना है.
So fortunately, not a lot of stand-up comics ended up getting cases against them. Like केस का थ्रेट सब लोग को मिलता है, ठीक है. बट लाइक देयर आर वेरी few, जैसे AIB के सामने एक्चुअल केसेस हुए, या मुनावर फारूकी के सामने एक्चुअल केस हुआ, he had to spend some time in jail. वीरदास के सामने केसेस हुए. But for most people who don't go viral now, there are no cases. As long as you've not gone viral, there will be no case because there is no political advantage to somebody taking you to court. But the minute you've gone viral and like millions of people have seen you, and somebody thinks कि अगर मैं इस पे case करूँगा तो I will get a lot of visibility, that's where it starts. There are the sections, you'll have them across the board. Like कुछ भी कर सकते हैं क्योंकि उनको no rational judge is ever going to convict you, ठीक है, for making jokes. That is a fact. Even for Munawar, Supreme Court तक गए थे, but Supreme Court told them कि you have to remove him, release him from jail. Thus, no comic has been convicted of a crime yet in India. They've spent time behind bars only because they were arrested, but the court said you have to let them go. There is one section that you have to be very careful about, and that is something that I also learned the hard way, called Section 295A, which is hurting religious sentiments. Now, if you will allow me to quote that, the exact section says that it has to be a deliberate and malicious act intended to outrage religious feelings of any class by insulting its religion or religious beliefs. So, deliberate and malicious act is very important. The intent behind doing this is very clearly written in the law. That even if you just mention about religion or तुम ऐसा कुछ भी बोलो, that is fine as long as तुम directly you're not trying to incite let's say riot. ठीक है? And so I had put out a video on I'm a Jain, so I decided I'll make some fun of my upbringing and my Jain values, which I think was funny. And so I made a few jokes. I wouldn't say on any god or on any particular on the religion as a whole, but some practices which I considered funny and I could not make sense of. So मैंने वो सब किया, and then I acknowledged in the video that Jain people are like the most non-violent religion on earth. So I addressed all of this also, that this is such a non-violent religion, but there are these things that I don't understand. और मैंने वीडियो में 2-3 बार मिच्छामी दुक्कड़म बोला, मैंने कैमरा में देख के मिच्छामी दुक्कड़म बोला that in case you feel offended by anything, I am sorry. All of that is fine. I performed it on stage. It killed on stage. Everybody was laughing. There were applause breaks. All of that was happening. Then I decided to put it online. I put it online, and just because Jainism was mentioned in the video, and it was about a few things related to Jainism, people started getting offended. सबसे पहले, the people started giving like, "Oh, we will come beat you up. We will file FIRs on you." But all of that was in the YouTube comments. तो मैं बोला YouTube comments ने आज तक किसी का कुछ नहीं किया है. मैं सब जगह बोलता था that I have a lot of respect for Jainism. I love my religion, and this is what I have done with showing my love only. There is no ill intent or anything, which there was never. I just want to make people laugh. The problem started when there were a few Jain lawyers that got involved, and they found out my email, and then they emailed me this particular subsection and a few others. So this was the most important, because Section 295A mein, it's a non-bailable offense. So if anybody files this, and if the police accept that FIR, they will come and they will arrest you. You will get acquitted by the court because there is no malicious intent. There is no deliberate malicious intent. You're not trying to incite anything. Judges are rational in our country, so the judge will see through this. But and I'm not even saying that the police is irrational, because if it's a non-bailable offense, they have to arrest you by law.
Arrest him.
उनका procedure है. And so the problem is that whenever you even galti say mention religion, or you mention somebody's name that is considered big enough or like a historical figure that people worship, who's not technically religion, but then if people worship, there's the other comic who got into trouble for mentioning a historical figure's name, who is not religion as such, but people worship this person so much that it's next to religion. So उसपे भी same आ गया कि hurting religious sentiments. In fact, there was one comic who made a joke using the word Bhagwan. He didn't even say which Bhagwan. But there was this one guy who decided, you said Bhagwan and that means my Bhagwan. And for that, we took him to the cops, and then he had to write an apology letter and everything. So this is one section that, so I also do a stand-up comedy crash course, and I teach people about comedy. My last lecture of my crash course is this. Like, ये section से तुम सावधान रहना. If you want to be a comedian in India, you have to be funny and you need to know the law. Because you can't mess around with 295A. And so like the first thing that anybody does when they get into this kind of trouble, मैंने कुणाल कामरा को phone किया. So he's facing these threats on a daily basis. So I was like, आप तो भी regular हो इसमें, आप बताओ मुझे क्या करना है. तो उसने मेरा वीडियो देखा. उसने बोला देख इतनी वीडियो में कुछ ऐसा जेल जाने लायक है नहीं. तुझे जो करना है कर. He said कि तू जेल तो नहीं जाएगा. Like he told me that if some cop decides to arrest you, which they won't, but if they decide to do anything, I will come. I'll put out a tweet. मीडिया बाहर आ जाएगा. तो तू अंदर तो नहीं जाने वाला, क्योंकि मीडिया प्रेशर हम बना देंगे. बट उसके बाद तो अपने नाम को गूगल करेगा तो ये सब आएगा कि तेरा एक controversy हुआ था.
Hmm.
You won't get convicted. You'll get acquitted.
Hmm.
But do you really want that kind of publicity? And then, so that's when I decided that the fight is not worth it, because there is no. And he told me this very beautiful thing also. He said that your jokes now, you don't have anybody who will fight for you on this line. For example, you made these jokes and people will say, "Oh, he's very funny," and that's great.
Hmm.
They will not come to court to fight for you. They will not come to release you from jail, because they're like, he's just
Correct.
a comic. But the people who are offended, they will come after you to try to make sure that you go to court and you go to jail. So there is
Hmm.
no upside to doing this. And he said that the kind of humor that he does, for example, political humor,
Hmm.
where he hates BJP. So he
Hmm.
said there are enough people who hate BJP enough that if something happens to me, they will stand up.
Sure.
Okay. But he said that
Hmm.
nobody's going to stand up for you just for this.
Hmm. Makes sense.
So,
Makes sense.
so then I decided, it's not worth it. I took down the video and I was like, guys, let's move on. And then I
Hmm.
stopped doing that also after that, because I'm like, it's just not worth doing any of that. I then went back to doing jokes about my life and stuff like that.
Hmm. Uttara, this is like a really sensitive area where people are not taking it as a joke. I mean, obviously when you talk about Jainism, right? So obviously ऐसा नहीं है कि सब जैन एकदम कट्टर जैन है,
Not
right?
at
There will
all. There were
also,
very few people who decided to do
yeah,
this. But the problem
do
is you
this.
only need one FIR, na?
Yeah.
There
And
could be
and
so
even
and there are so many other Jains who saw it and they loved it and they told me this is hilarious.
exactly वो भी है. And even if people aren't like exclusively supporting you कि नहीं मुझे ये funny लगा, I mean Jains, तो कोई क्या बोलते हैं वो, I would say सामाजिक प्रेशर कि आजू बाजू वाले क्या बोलेंगे, उसकी वजह से भी they could not have supported कि अच्छा मैं अगर इसको सपोर्ट करूँ तो मैं ऐसा दिखूंगा कि मैं जैनिज्म का
Correct.
मजाक उड़ाना चाहता हूँ despite me being Jain. So there is obviously this, and it's a very, I wouldn't say individualistic pressure, but वो मैक्रो लेवल पे प्रेशर बहुत बढ़ जाता है कि नेबर क्या बोलेंगे, नेबर भी जैन है, उसको पता चल गया तो क्या
Correct.
होगा, blah 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 and that stuff. So
Individually, सब लोग ने video देख के they would have laughed, but
yeah,
publicly they can't acknowledge it.
they
So I don't know. Maybe one day we will reach that place where people will accept all kinds of humor. But for now, it's easiest if you don't touch religion, because there are like laws against it. It's better if you don't touch political humor, because Kunal Kamra today does not get a lot of corporate shows because brands don't know whether they want to associate with him. So like वो public shows करता है और audience खरीदता है उसका ticket. But like the big money where there's a corporate show and they'll pay you like a few lakhs for doing a show or something, वो उसको like कम opportunity मिलेगा to do that kind of stuff. So it will affect your bottom line. If you see the most successful comic right now, they're all very clean, non-controversial comics. तुम्हारा साकिर खान है, अमित टंडन है, your बिस्वा है. They have realized how to play this game. Like stay away from controversy, do what the audience wants, and you'll be very happy in life. Like तुम्हें ये सब touch ही नहीं करना है.
correct. So obviously this artistic ability में भी it becomes a hindrance. You just said कि अभी audience को जो पसंद आता है वो करो. But if you have a really great write-up which is not as per what the public wants to see, so then what do you do in such a dilemma के मैं मेरे artistic ability को justify करूँ या मैं public को appease करूँ?
So firstly, till you will eventually find your audience, or let me put it, your audience will eventually find you. Like in the beginning, you do what feels right to you and what the kind of joke writer you are, and you will resonate with some people. Like there are some people who love Kunal Kamra, some people who hate Kunal Kamra. They don't think he's funny. There will be other people who will love an Amit Tandon, but some of the younger people may not relate to his jokes on it. So they're like, what is he talking about? Or Atul Khatri for that matter. So everybody has their own audience. You will find the people that like the jokes that you do. So you be true to yourself. And that's about it. But, and it's also not about appeasing the audience, right? It's because of the audience that you are who you are. So like when comics say that, oh, I have to pander to the audience, I'm always like, they are the reason that you are able to do this. So why are you showing such disdain to the people who bought tickets for you? If they want to see a particular type of humor, give them that type of humor. do what you want to do, but also do what they've come for. Because if you only do what you want and eventually not enough people want to see that, then you can't do stand up for a living, because at the end of the day you need that revenue source. And so your audiences buy your stand up comic. Give them what they want. As simple as that.
Correct.
In fact, I have different jokes for different sets of audiences. When I go to a college show, I will talk more about my dating life, my college life, stuff like that. When I do a corporate show, I will talk about my work life and make fun of my workplace and stuff like that. When I'm at a family event, I will have some jokes about families. I decided to diversify even more. So usually I perform in English and Hindi, but then I realized that I'm a Gujarati. I know how to speak Gujarati. The jokes are the same. I just tell stories that are funny. So I started performing in Gujaratis also, because there are enough Gujarati private events, like weddings are there, birthday parties are there, or just in general anything that you can find, where they are more than happy to get a Gujarati comic.
Correct.
So then I started doing Gujarati. Then I started doing public shows in Gujarati, because I was like, in general, people might want to see Gujarati stand-up comedy, which is not really a thing. So I decided I have all of these kinds of jokes that I'm able to write. It's okay if different people want to see different stuff. I will give them what they want.
Right. Right. And in fact, ये गुजराती वाला जो तूने point बोला, so I guess and that is only recently that I've come across this, कि जो गुजराती comedians है, right? Take it चिरायु मिस्त्री और मनन, yeah, I don't remember his surname, but Manan also. तो bro, उनका content seriously funny है. I mean, just 2 days back, two days back, मैं बताता हूँ, while having dinner, okay, हम लोग सब साथ में बैठे थे, me, my father, mother, and brother. And we were watching Inca clips, Chirayu Mistry and Manan ka. Then they are quite hilarious. So I was under the impression.
In fact, they do tours in the US, only Gujarati shows. Like वो लोग सब जगह, अभी तो यूरोप वगैरह सब जगह जाते हैं गुजराती स्टैंड अप लेके. That is how far ahead they've come. Like I was just doing it in Bombay, and then I've done a few shows here and there. They decided to, like, we are Gujarati comics. They decided to get in on it 100%, and because they are in general they are already funny, they just decided Gujarati mein karenge, and now they are performing all over the world in Gujarati.
Correct. So we are like quite impressed, and it's not like कि हम ही हंस रहे थे, being the younger generation. यार मम्मी पापा भी हंस रहे थे दोनों को देख के, अरे ये सच्ची में funny है. It's not that कि उसमें गाली ज्यादा, I mean हाँ गाली है उसमें, but वो ऐसा गाली है कि
funny.
Yeah.
गाली is there because that's how people talk. In general, when you will talk to your friends, एक दो गाली तो ऐसे ही निकल जाएगा, and so that is, they're just being true to themselves. They're not pretending to do something else. For all comics, for that matter, nobody abuses for the sake of abusing. Like after you've attained a certain level in comedy, everybody knows that you cannot rely on an abusive word for a laugh. Because if you do, then that's a crutch. That means your joke is not funny, and people are laughing only because you abused. And abuse is just because that's how you talk. The actual joke has to be something else. So what all of us do, and what I also do, is if there is some kind of a abusive word in any joke of mine, I will also see if the joke is funny if I don't say it. Because if I don't say it and the joke is still funny, then this is just adding more flavor to it. But I'm not relying on this word to make the people have like, oh, usne ye bola. That's not comedy.
Correct. So, Rohan, you told me that you are also doing a crash course on how to become a stand-up comedian, right? We'll come to that later, but first thing is that you as a comedian, what is the process of or journey of writing a joke? Where does it start and where do you finish that joke? Right from, so the entire journey.
Right. So the kind of jokes that I do, so there are different kinds of jokes that you can do in life. You can do one-liner jokes where you have to like deliberately think about एक sentence में कैसे हंसाना है लोगों को. You can do wordplay kind of stuff. What I do is I tell stories. I'm a storyteller, and those stories then I make funny. So in the beginning of writing anything, I'm like, okay, what is it that I want to talk about? It's usually something that has happened to me in my life. I have jokes about my first girlfriend, or like my first job, or I have jokes about homeopathy and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, अभी मुझे किस चीज के बारे में बात करना है? Okay, then I will build a story around it. Like if it's a real life incident, I will write it down. All of these things happened. Then I'll try to figure out Now, where is the funny in this? Like I know how to be funny. Okay, I have learned that over the years. So I'll try to identify funny parts of it. I will write them down. Then when I'm having conversations with friends, I'll just slip it into the conversation normally without it being like, oh, it's a joke or something. If somebody laughs, I'm like, okay, I'll make a note. When I'm talking to comics, and comics do this all the time, they slip it into conversation, and we realize also the other person is now trying a set on us. So then we'll also give feedback. Oh, this is actually funny. Maybe you can do this, this, this. Like sometimes comics help each other,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's when I start writing this whole thing. Then when I've come up with like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, I'll go on stage and at an open mic when I'm doing a longer spot, like I'm doing 10 minutes or 15 minutes. For 5-7 minutes, I'll do jokes which I know will work. So that audience is on my side. They know I'm funny. Then I'll slip in these 2-3 jokes that I've written about this new topic. I'll see if they're laughing or not. If they are, that's great. I'll audio record every set so I can go back and see where all they laugh. At what points? Were they the points where I thought they will laugh? Did they laugh at some other unexpected point? Why did they laugh? I'll try to refine the joke more. Then next 2-3 times that I do, I try to make sure कि मैंने जो 2-3 jokes लिखे हैं, every one of them hits. Then maybe on stage I might think of something else and I'll add a joke on the spot. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. So eventually over the course of like 10, 15, 20 open mics, I will come up with a rough idea of that these 3 minutes, 4 minutes of a story is working in general. These are the general places where people are laughing. And after that, it's just a continuous process throughout the joke's lifetime where I'll keep on refining. I'll replace one word with something else. Sometimes just words sound funnier. Saying it in a different way might be funny. Emphasizing a different word might be funny. So eventually I'll figure out that this is working and then I'll continue doing it. But it's always an evolution. Like something that I did 3 years ago, I might decide to tweak it a little bit today and realize, oh, now it's funnier. But so that's basically the journey of it. You have to keep on trying and trying and trying it because whenever you write a joke, you think you're hilarious. I'm like, this is the best joke ever. And then you go on stage and you perform, and the audience doesn't think it's funny. So that's when you realize, oh, maybe I have to do something. And that's why comedy is very different from any other art form. Let's say if you're a musician, you're a guitarist, you can spend 1,000 hours sitting in your house just practicing the same 5 songs. And then when you get on stage, you know that you are going to kill it because you've done 1,000 hours on these 5 songs only. As a comedian, I can practice for 1,000 hours the same 5 minutes at home. But the first time that I go on stage is the first time that I'm getting some real feedback from random strangers who are hearing me for the first time, telling me if I'm funny or not. Which is why no matter how big a comic you are, the biggest comics have to go back to open mics to try new jokes. Because even they don't know. Like, eventually you will know what's going to work, what's not. So you will have more confidence that your jokes will work. But you will never stop doing open mics to validate that.
It's like intuitive learning also, right? Because most of your learning goes while you're on stage. It's not when you're practicing.
Correct. When you're on stage, when you record it, when you go back, listen to it, see what happened on stage, why did something work, why did something not, and that's how your joke builds up.
So another question that comes to, this is just an addition to this topic. And let's say you're a stand-up comedian, right? So and you have been doing and you are offered a contract with Netflix. Let's take example. Okay. And so ये एक Netflix का 1 hour special बनाने के लिए कितना how many years of preparation या कितना time जाता है उसमें? And another question that comes to my mind is why all the specials are only 1 hour long and not more than that? Like 1 hour 15 या 1 hour 20 या 1.5 hours क्यों नहीं हो सकता?
Okay. So how long it takes to write 1 hour? For a good comic, if you will see all of these comedians in India or abroad, the usual time frame when they come out with a new 1 hour special that then they do live every year is 1 year. It takes 1 year to write a good 1 hour of jokes that kills from start to end. So that will translate to about 5 minutes a month. Then you get 60 minutes in 12 months. And that's how long it takes to write really good jokes. Irrespective of whether you're doing it for Netflix, you're doing it for Amazon Prime, or you're doing it for your own tour.
Correct.
A very good comic will be able to do it once a year, a new show. And then that new show also will take you a few months to tour in all the different cities, right? Like depending on how famous you are. First, you will do in the tier one cities of India. Then you'll go to tier two, tier three cities. Then you will go to Dubai. You will go to Doha. All of that. There is a lot of Indian population over there. Then you'll do a tour in Europe. That Europe tour will take you 1 month. If you're famous enough for the US, you will do a US Canada tour. That'll take you 1 month, 2 months. So तुम्हारा 5-6 महीने तो what you've already written वो perform करने में चले जाते हैं.
अच्छा.
And then throughout this time when they're doing this 1 hour, they're also going to open mics writing their next 1 hour. Because once this gets over, they need to have some new material, right? Because for 6 months they'll do the same jokes of 1 hour. But उसके बाद क्या? Because एक बार तूने किसी को देख लिया, the same joke is not funny the second time.
Correct.
So the next time that the same comic comes to your city, he needs to have a brand new 1 hour of jokes. So they're always doing existing jokes, writing new jokes, doing existing jokes, writing new jokes. Same thing for Netflix. So for Netflix, what they'll do is they'll first do open mics and all. They'll come up with a new 1 hour. Then they'll do their entire tour, India, world tour, Europe, everything. After they finish the entire tour, so they've milked everything that they can from live shows. That is when they will record it for Netflix and then put it out there. So not only did you get the revenue from all of your tours, but the same jokes then you now sold to Netflix, and you're getting more money because now so many more people are watching it that did not buy tickets.
Right. And the second part of the question,
Okay,
like
and the second part was, I think it's just the sweet spot that people have found that works for comedy. Like half an hour is very short of a show for anybody to watch. You're paying a good amount of money. Like in India, you're paying 500 to $1,000 if you're watching somebody do a program. Half an hour is very little. Like चालू होते ही खत्म हो गया. 1.5, 2 hours is now very long for the same person to be on stage to continuously talk. Like there are very few people who can pull it off for 2 hours continuously be funny. Okay. And like you saw the amount of time that goes into creating a new 1 hour. If it's taking approximately 1 year for a 1 hour, it'll take you 2 years for a 2 hour. So 2 साल तुम क्या करोगे? And so you'll take 1 year, you'll do a 1 hour show. You'll have opening acts before you do. So like you'll have 1 or 2 opening acts, will do 10-15 minutes each. So वहाँ पे आधा घंटा जाएगा, तुम्हारा 1 घंटा जाएगा. 1.5 hours is like what works. Like if you start a show at let's say 8 o'clock, by 9:30 you're done, then people can go out for dinner. But 8 to 10 show करोगे, 8 to 10:30 show करोगे. Now there's no time for dinner. Tomorrow they have to go to office. How do you fit everything into their evening? Or you start a late show. Maybe they already have dinner at 8 o'clock, and then you start a 10 o'clock show. But then you want them to be done by 11:30. So now they can go home. So it works for everything. People don't have the patience for sitting for longer than like 1.5 hours, and they have other shit to do in life. So you're the comic who's just going to do this and then go home. Tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up and be like, "Chalo, abhi aaj kya karna hai?" Jokes like that. उनको तो ऑफिस जाना है.
Right.
So this is what works for stand-up comedy. 1 hour is a good spot to have 1 hour, and then at a live show, maybe a few opening acts, so 1.5 hours. That's about it. Even at corporate shows, when I get approached, I always tell people that corporate show may keep it between half an hour and 1 hour. Don't keep it very long. Don't keep it very short.
Achha.
And that's why all public shows also are usually in the 90 minutes frame, 90-minute time frame. Any show that you'll buy tickets on a Book My Show or a Zomato or Book My Show or an Insider, 90 minutes, 60 minutes, that's about it.
That makes sense. I mean, really consider that both the comedian's time and the audience's time is taken into consideration. 1 hour sounds a very ideal time, like a sweet spot that you said.
Right.
So, Rohan, you have been doing it for since 2015, right? Stand-up comedy. So what would be your advice to someone who would like to make a career in stand-up comedy? Because as a spectator right now, I think that the stand-up comedy जो पूरा fraternity है, that is saturated. I mean, और कोई अभी आना चाहे तो I don't think there is more content left, because सब लोग ने सब कुछ content cover कर लिया, and everyone has reached a stage where people are doing world tours or they have had a special with the Amazon Prime. So for them, what would be your advice?
I think there is way too much space available in Indian comedy industry. Like if you think about it, today in markets like America or UK, there are thousands more comedians across those geographies than there are in India. Those markets you might consider saturated, but still every day more and more people are trying. In India, all comedians fit in 2 WhatsApp groups. All. Like how many famous comics are there? 15, 20, 30, 40, let's say 50. 50 से ज्यादा famous comedians India में नहीं है. For a population as big as India, there's enough room for anybody else to come. So anybody who wants to start getting in the industry now, I would say go for it. All you need to do is hit open mics, do your 4 minutes, and get better at it. Because what will happen is, when you start being very funny, and when audiences love you, the producers who are organizing the show, they will start noticing you because they want their show to go well. So if you are regularly killing, they will remember your name and they'll call you for more shows. Then some other producer will see you and then they will call you for their shows. And soon you will be doing open mics, but then you'll also start doing featured shows, which are not open mics, but they know that you are funny. And so no matter how many other funny comics are there, as long as you are funny, equally funny, little funnier, you will get noticed. And अभी तो Instagram Reels का ज़माना है, YouTube का ज़माना है. You're gonna put this online. Record your content, just put it out. Like recently, what I started doing is because I saw the power that Instagram has, even though it has nothing to do with comedy. I've started making reels, just 10-second long reels that are funny. So whatever trending reel is happening, I will take that. I'll make a funny version of it. And I will put it on my Instagram channel, and that's getting me more views. In fact, yesterday I was posting a quiz in Khar, and there was this one girl who came up to me and she's like, "You know what? I've seen your Instagram reels. You're very funny." She didn't know I'm a stand-up comic, but she knew that I'm putting out funny reels on the internet, and she recognized me. And so you want to get noticed today? Use the power of the internet. Put your content out there, and you will get noticed. Right, and like I'm not doing reels for the sake of doing reels, right? Because I want people to follow me for the reels, but then also have that translate to live shows, which will happen. Like there are people who follow me on Instagram, then I'll put out show details, and sometimes they'll message me, "Where is this? I want to come. I haven't seen you like ever perform live. I would love to do that," etc. So use the internet to gain a little bit of a following, get them to your live shows, and just that's about it. Just get on stage and perform. You will realize whether you even like this or not, because it takes a certain kind of crazy person to get on stage every single day of the week to do jokes in front of strangers. Half the time it's not going to be funny, and so you're going to perform to silence, and then you'll feel like, oh shit, because the entire room has rejected you and your jokes, but you will still get on stage again the next day. It takes a certain amount of crazy to do that. Not everybody wants to do that. Correct. You realize there's a saying like I believe that if you survive your first, let's say 15 to 20, 25 open mics, you will continue doing it, because then you'll know that you enjoy it. If you don't survive those, because like, oh, nobody's laughing, then you will leave.
Right. That makes sense. And there's another thing that I'm talking about reels is that it has really given a platform to, as a stand-up comedian, you must have had this complaint that why there are not many female comedians, right? You must have heard this a lot of times. And even right? I have heard this. So when it comes to that argument also now, this is exactly everything. It's about lockdown, right? The moment lockdown started, you started seeing a lot of influencers and a lot of comedians as well. Now, even I have listened to a few opinions about why there aren't many female comedians, and so the basic argument is that they don't have that I would say safe space. This is something I've heard from international and the Indians also. There's no safe space for female comedians to perform. This is the crux of it. Now, when reels came up, right now, this really boosted the intent of the female comedians to post out more content who thought they were funny, but they did not go out in the open mics because they thought it was like not safe for them to go out. So and if you see, there is this one There's Shiv Dasani, right? You must have heard of this influencer. So even
I have.
I personally liked. I did not know about her for until the lockdown started, and then I was like, "Acha, is content the funny?" So I started following her. So this, in a way, Reels also created gave more opportunity to female comedians as well to post out their content. Now I don't know how many will go out to on tours or to that extent, but they have created their fan base where people can relate to her content and females can relate to her content and they find it funny. So it's a great way of promoting your content.
It is a great way, but I'm not sure whether Reels pay popularity will translate to popularity as a comic, because the kind of humor that works in both situations is very different. In
Actually.
Reels, you have zero time. You have 10 seconds. You have to use some audio. Like bam, bam, bam. That's what you're supposed to do. Be funny. On stage, if you're going to be there on stage for 30 minutes, that skill set is not going to translate. But speaking of your point about why there are few female comics, that's a question that sometimes I struggle with, because I don't believe that in a metro city there is any kind of barrier to entry for anybody,
Correct.
like if you're a male or a
Mm.
female. But I have seen some of my friends only where a stand-up show usually happens late at night. Okay,
Late at
they will.
night. Mm.
Okay, it's either 7:30 or a 8:30, 9 o'clock show. They will
Mm.
end at 10:30. It will be in
Correct.
some other part of the city. Not all parents would be comfortable letting their daughters, just be out so late at night and then come back
Mm.
alone, performing. Half the times they're performing in bars. They're not all proper stand-up venues, and etc. So I think
Correct.
that is one barrier that females have to deal with more than males, because my parents have never thought twice if I tell them I'm going to Navi
Mm.
Mumbai, I'm going to come back at 1 o'clock at night because the show ends at 11. But
Yeah.
but that might not be that might not be their same reaction if my sister tells them that,
Mm.
which I agree is not fair, but that is just how it is, because like at the end of the day, society isn't as safe for women alone at night as it might be for men. So that is
Mm.
one part that I know that is something that a lot of these
Yeah.
some of the female comics who I happen to know had to deal with, and
Mm.
that could be one potential barrier.
Potential.
But this is something that maybe in the future, if you ever get a female comic on the podcast, you can ask her, and she might be able to tell you more about the barriers that women have than
Mm.
men.
Correct.
Because, like, just by being a man, there might be some problems which I'm not even aware of. Like this, also I know because I spoke to some of my friends, and this makes sense to me. But there could be other things which I'm not sure.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I would really love to have a female comedian to, talk about to look at the stand-up comedy world from a female's perspective. And but so far it has been Reels has been really great. And obviously, just like you said, there is a fair argument to put also that the Reel probably won't convert to the audience that you really want to cater. But some of the female comedians have been enjoying really well, and I guess, and it's like a female-centric comedy also where they have some probably jokes about nails or something like that that we might not be able to relate to, but they relate to. So the Reels pushes in that direction only.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I've
Hmm.
always made jokes about being
Hmm.
men and like male characteristics and male things, and that has
Oh.
never put off female audience members, right? Male comics do
Hmm.
it all the time.
Hmm.
But the minute a female comic tries to talk about female things, like
Hmm.
periods or bras or something like that,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know why suddenly male audience does not relate to it as much, or like does not appreciate it as much or whatever. Because like
Acha.
women are listening to our jokes about
Hmm.
men things, so why is it
Hmm.
not happening in the other way? I don't get it,
Hmm.
because I'll fully appreciate. I'm like, yeah, you want to talk because like you have periods, you have some jokes about periods. Go for it. I want to
Hmm.
listen. This is education for me, and if it's funny, I'll laugh.
Right.
But not it doesn't happen like that with everybody, and I don't know why.
And that's yeah. I mean, yeah, you brought this to my notice as well. Yeah, that's true. Now, Rohan, before we wrap this up, I have one last thing for you. You said that you work in the morning and you perform at clubs as a comedian. And how what's your schedule like, number one, and what are you doing with what lies ahead of you as a stand-up comedian? Like, do you want to have a like a special on Amazon Prime or something like that, or there is something else that you're doing?
Okay. So my schedule is like I said, I work throughout the week during the day.
Hmm.
At night, whenever I have shows, I will go ahead and I will perform. And on the weekends, I'll have a little more time. So if I have the opportunity to do like one or two more spots, I will do that. I used to organize shows as well under this brand name called Comedian Rhapsody. It's not really a company; it's a Facebook page. I'll go around, I'll partner with venues. I'll be like, I will bring the comedy to you. Let us host an open mic or a featured show or whatever. So this is what my schedule looks like. I'll write jokes whenever I get time. There is no set time as such. What lies ahead of me, I am going to be pursuing my MBA in the US from this year onwards. So in July, I'm flying to the US, and for 2 years, I'm going to study there, and then we'll see what happens after that. So I will. So I think for the next 2 years, I'm going to very much leverage the fact that I'm in a more mature comedy industry, and
Hmm.
I'll just go to open mics over there. I'll hang out with the comedians in the US. I'll learn a little bit from them. I'll do a little bit of stand up over there. I'll continue making content on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. I might start my own podcast like you have, and just talk to people in the US. They see people in the US just shitting on Americans and their way of doing things like, यार ये लोग के पास पानी नहीं होता है या मतलब साफ करने के लिए टॉयलेट पेपर यूज करते हैं etc. I don't know. So I want to do a lot of that. So I wanted to stand up and create content in the US for the next 2 years. And
Hmm.
yeah, let's see whether if any of that gets viral and suddenly I'm like, oh, maybe I can do comedy for full time. Maybe I'll come back and I'll just be a stand up comic. Like my life's goal eventually is to at some point be able to quit my job and do stand up full time. I'm not there yet right
Hmm.
now, but I want to do that eventually. And one goal, the one very specific. So I had read this somewhere that unless you have specific goals, they don't materialize. There's no point of saying, "Oh, मुझे stand-up comedy करना है." So one
Hmm.
goal that I have is that I want to do my own 1 hour special at the Tata Theatre at NCPA. It's like 1,000 seater theater. I have
Hmm.
seen Veerdas perform over there. I absolutely
Ah.
loved it. And I was like, I want to be the person on stage at the Tata Theatre one day performing it. I've already performed at the NCPA at the Little Theatre, which is a smaller venue. And I did that
Hmm.
because I won Mood Indigo, and then they called me back and they're like, "Do you want to perform here?" But I want my own 1 hour show at the Tata Theatre. I'm putting it out there
Wow.
in my life.
That's great. That's great. I mean, when you said that you're going to do MBA in your in US, the first thought that popped in my mind was कि अच्छा अभी ये landscape में जो जा रहा है, that is like a ocean of opportunities for stand-up comedians, because there you can talk about anything and everything. And
Yeah.
I mean, best wishes to you on this one. And
Thank you so much.
it was really a great pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting. This was wonderful.
And I'm stopping the recording.